Yo, what's good? It's your boy Dot from Dot Me Now Coaching and Entertainment. For coaching, my links are down below. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 lessons that I've learned by meditating for 5 plus years. Um, I really have been meditating every single day for about 5 to 6 years now, and I really have learned a lot. So this will become a series on my channel. So far, I can make 5 of these videos sharing 3 lessons each video. You feel me? So I'll just get right into it. You feel me? Let's do this. So the first benefit I've gained from meditation and the first lesson I learned is pretty much I learned how to stop my mind very easily. And more specific, I learned how to stop my intellect from constantly running and generating thoughts, because that's what we really mean when we say we have like a monkey mind, the mind that can't stop thinking. See, the thing that thinks thoughts is actually your intellect, right? You have an intellect which is able to make thoughts, and it's pretty much making thoughts based out the information which you hold inside your mind, because your mind's a group of information. You feel me? And you base your thoughts out of this information. Now, with that being said, meditation is a very powerful tool to learn how to stop your intellect from constantly just recycling information from inside of your mind. Now, granted, with meditation, it's not always a requirement that you must stop your mind. Sometimes it's about not stopping the thoughts and just letting the thoughts pass. And usually, as the thoughts pass, it's not even that they're stopping, you just stop paying attention to them. So when I say that I could like stop my intellect from thinking, I'm not even fully sure if I just stopped myself from thinking or if I just stopped being aware of the thought process, which is already happening. Because technically, when we think, we're essentially acting out and processing information. The thing is, though, we're always processing information. It's just that we're not always aware of all the information which we process, but we are aware of some of it. We're aware of our thoughts, right? But I'm saying this because I'm not sure if thinking ever really stops. I'm starting to think that really the thinking never stops, and I just learn to observe something else. Because when it comes to the structure of reality, right, we have 12 main planes of existence. At least that how it has been described and shown to me. People may have different systems and way of seeing the world. That's cool. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that with the framework that I've been given, I have been taught that there are 12 planes of existence, and that the fourth plane is the mental plane where, thoughts in your mind actually exist. That now, when you meditate, right, one of the biggest goals is to become the observer. When you become the observer, though, you actually start to actually hit more of the fifth plane of existence, which is where your soul exists at, and your soul is an individualized focal point of awareness. It's literally the observer. When you become the observer, you learn to observe the observer. You learn to observe your own soul, to become aware of your own awareness, to become truly conscious of simply just yourself and not conscious and aware of your thoughts. So if you become the observer and you observe the observer, it kind of makes sense that all thoughts would stop, because at this point you're observing the observer and you're not observing your thoughts. You feel what I'm trying to say? The thoughts may still be happening on like subconscious levels, because when niggas say that we have a subconscious mind, technically we just have one mind with different layers. We have one group of information, but when it comes to this group of information, when it comes to this mind, we're only aware of a certain part. That's what they call the conscious mind. But there's also subconscious and unconscious layers of our mind which we're not fully aware of, hence the word subconscious and unconscious. Now I'm saying that because if you stop observing your mind, at that point all your mind would become subconscious or unconscious, because you would not be conscious of your mind anymore, because you learn to transcend your mind. And that's why I actually heard Sadhguru say this before, about how like Sadhguru always says that he lost his mind, because literally when he became the observer, he lost his mind. He lost that individual group of information. He stopped identifying with his mind and expanded to the greater mind beyond. So I'm saying all this because even though I learned to quote unquote stop my thoughts super easy, what I'm starting to really think is the fact that I haven't really stopped my thoughts. I've just gained so much control over my awareness that I can now choose to observe that I can now choose to observe something beyond my thoughts. You feel me? That first one could honestly go pretty deep, to be honest, because even though I could stop my thoughts, that doesn't mean that I can't acquire information when my thoughts stop. You feel me? Like before I get to the next, benefit and lesson I learned, I kind of just want to slip this in here, even though I can stop my thoughts, or I guess I should say, even though I can stop being aware of my mental processes, that doesn't mean that in those states I'm not receiving information, because I've also learned, and this isn't like another benefit. You feel me? I should probably save that benefit for a different thing. 'Cause this could be two benefits, but also just understand the fact that even though I have stopped my thinking process, or even though I have became less aware of my thinking process, I'm still able to receive information beyond thought. You feel me? And I guess I'll explain that for a different benefit and lesson I learned. You feel me? But look, man, the second lesson I learned from meditating for 5 plus years is that the things which constantly pop up at the side of your mind are usually meant to be looked at, even if they're not meant to be accepted. Now, here's what I mean. Let's say that you keep on having the thought like, everything's going to shit. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail. I'm horrible, right? If these thoughts keep on popping up, you probably should look at them. That doesn't mean that you need to accept them as true, but you should look at why this is popping up and why you are constantly having these thoughts, and why does a part of you want to accept it. You feel me? Where is this coming from? Why is it popping up now? Things like this are very important because a lot of times people try to suppress what's going on inside their mind. In fact, I've actually seen meditation get used as a way to avoid confronting what's going on inside your mind, because like I said, I'm not fully sure that the intellect is really stopping. What I'm more convinced of is the fact that we're simply just not aware of the intellect anymore. We learn to become aware of something beyond the intellect. Therefore, we're not consciously focusing on the processes of the intellect. You feel me? But technically, we're always processing information. Our body's always doing that. We're just not aware of every piece of information. If we were, that'd be kind of horrible, because you'd be aware of so much shit at once you couldn't even function in normal reality. And I'm saying that because I've noticed that people will meditate and they're able to quote unquote clear their minds, so to speak, but then after the meditation all the thoughts just come flooding back and nothing has really changed. Inside that moment they have somehow learned to stop observing their thoughts, but those thoughts and that information is still there. It's still there, being processed on subconscious and unconscious levels. And I've noticed this in other people, and I've also noticed it with inside of myself. And now here's where there's a certain separation between you just no longer observing your thoughts and you simply actually stopping the thought process. And here's what I mean, right? There's been times where I've noticed that there are certain things that keep on popping up. And then from there, I've learned to observe those things and focus on those things and work through those things. And at some point, nothing was popping up anymore. And then my mind was kind of just blank. You feel me? Now, what does this mean? Does that mean that my thought process stopped? Or does that just mean that these thoughts were trying to grab my attention? And now that they did, there's no more thoughts trying to grab my attention. Now, realize how I worded that. There's no more thoughts trying to grab my attention. That doesn't mean that there's no more thoughts at all. That just means that there's no more thoughts grabbing my attention. And I'm saying that because, once again, I'm pretty sure that thoughts don't really stop, because thoughts is just acting out information and processing information, which we always do. Like even simply just beating your heart has to, like, your mind and your brain has to act out the information of how to beat your heart so your heart can actually beat. But you're not thinking about beating your heart all the time, even though your heart's kind of thinking about beating itself. You feel me? It's acting out that information about how to beat. You feel me? So I'm saying that because when it comes to thoughts coming through our mind, right? We need to sometimes become aware of the thoughts and understand the source of them. And once we do that, our mind will clear up. But when I say that our mind clears up, I'm not fully saying that all thoughts stop. What I'm saying is that thoughts stop grabbing your attention so much, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that thoughts never really stop. I already explained how your heart always beats, and I already explained that, right? The thoughts don't necessarily stop. You just stop being aware of them. And at certain periods of your life, right, certain thoughts may be trying to grab your attention more than others. Therefore, when you try to meditate, sometimes you can still quote unquote stop your mind, but once you get done meditation, the thoughts just come rushing back. Opposed to when you work through the thoughts and then your mind is clear because there's no more thoughts grabbing your attention, and then after meditation, your mind is still relatively clear. You feel what I'm trying to say? And I'm saying this because we need to realize that when certain things pop up, we need to work through them. Yes, it's good to just let the thoughts pass, because when you let the thoughts pass, at some point your awareness will just be like, you know what, bro, I'm done observing these thoughts. I'm just gonna observe my own awareness. You feel me? At some point you can clear your mind like that, but it's not always the best way to clear your mind, because sometimes these thoughts are begging for your attention. And when you stop being inside of a meditative state, all the thoughts come rushing back. You want to get to a point where even when you're not in a meditative state, your thoughts are not constantly just rushing through your fucking mind. And that could only happen if you actually become aware of the thoughts, understand the source of them, and then kind of transform them in a way to the point where they stop trying to grab your attention. So if you're constantly having doubts and fears, you need to find out why you're having doubts and fears. Is there some limiting belief? Is there somebody in your life who's pushing this on you? Is there some kind of energy that's influencing your thoughts right now? Once you recognize the root of the thought and then nip that shit in the butt, those thoughts just go away and your mind will be clear. Granted, there's still some thoughts happening on subconscious and unconscious levels, but those thoughts are not important for your conscious mind, hence why they're not grabbing your attention. Meanwhile, those other thoughts, which you tried to push to the subconscious, keep on popping up because they did need your attention. So when things keep on popping up inside of your mind, you probably need to be aware of that. I know for me, one of the biggest things was shit with my ex. You feel me? I bring up my ex all the time, you know what I'm saying? Because that was a very transformative experience for me, and I learned so many fucking lessons. And after the breakup, I kept on having thoughts about her and things that happened and shit that I wasn't happy about. Like, oh my God, you know how long it took to really, like, cause before I'm like, yo, I'm gonna just let the thoughts pass and not focus on it and have a clear mind. And my mind would be clear, so like seemingly my mind would be clear, but then after meditation it all comes back. And it's like I would think about all the times where I feel like I got done dirty and I feel like I should have like not put up with that type of shit. You feel me? And I'm sure she did the same exact shit. There's times when she probably thought that, damn, this nigga was doing me dirty, and why the fuck I ain't say shit, or why the fuck did I stay with that shit? I'm sure that we both did that shit. I kept on thinking about just her in general, what she might be doing, what happened in the past, why I put up with certain shit, and I would try to just ignore that shit, and it kept on popping up. But once I just said, fuck it, bro, I'ma accept that this shit is popping up, and I'ma work through this shit. I started really thinking, damn, when all that shit did happen, why didn't I stand up for myself? Or I could say stand up. Why did? Cause when certain shit would happen, I would say I don't fuck with that shit, and vice versa with her. She would say I don't fuck with that shit, but we still stayed together when we both should have left each other, because we both were bad to each other. We both should have left each other, but we kind of put up with that shit. So I'm thinking like, yo, why did I put up with that shit for so long? And before I would try to ignore that question, But I realized that I had to answer it. I had to answer that question, nigga. Why did you put up with that shit for so long? Once I answered it, the thought stopped popping up. And in fact, I had to answer it so that way in the future, I didn't put up with no bullshit like that again. If I understood why I did it, I could stop doing it. You feel me? So like I said, certain shit needs to pop up. Certain shit's trying to grab your attention. Stop trying to ignore that shit all the time. I learned that big time when it came to meditation. You feel me? And now the last lesson I learned, I actually made a YouTube video about this shit years ago. And that is, I learned that meditation can easily speed up your timeline, mainly by you avoiding certain desires which may pop up randomly. So I actually made a video about this shit before, so go find that. But I'm gonna break some shit down in this video real quick, right? So with meditation, right? Meditation gives you the opportunity to become the observer and become a bit more detached from your thoughts and your emotions, right? So before you learn how to fully stop observing your thoughts and emotions, at first you kind of just let them pass by. You feel me? Now the thing is, right? Most people actually, let me rephrase this. A lot of people do not meditate, right? A lot of people are not aware of what's fully going on inside themselves and the reason why these things go on inside themselves. So because of this, right? People every day have certain thoughts and ideas and desires which they seek to act out, right? With meditation, though, when certain thoughts and emotions and ideas and desires pop up, you have the chance to be a bit more aware of it while also being detached from it. And now you can kind of question it because you realize that you're separate from it. Here's what I mean. Let's say that you're just a regular nigga, right? And you're kind of, aroused, right? When you're in states of arousement, you may have a desire to, have intercourse with somebody. Now, let's say that you don't have a girlfriend and you're kind of just like you're like a player kind of nigga who just, plays females and just does what you want with them and then leaves them, right? Every time you get aroused, you may have a desire to sleep with a new girl. You feel me? And you may be inside this loop for, let's say, 5 to 10 years of your life where you kind of just get aroused and you hit up random girls and then you sleep with random girls and you kind of just act off that for like 5, 10 years until like 5, 10 years later, you finally realize that, damn, this shit is not making me happy. You feel me? Okay. So that's that person. It took them 5 to 10 years to realize that hitting hoes every day is not the best thing for them. You feel me? Now, the person who meditates, right, they may get aroused and then have those same desires. But because they meditate, right, let's say that they're in meditation when this shit pops up. Because they're a bit more detached, they don't always feel the need to act off that. In fact, they may question, why do I really feel the need to hit up random girls? What is that really doing for me? They may question the thought way quicker than somebody who doesn't meditate. And because they question the thought, they stop acting off that desire so much. Therefore, they don't fucking waste 5 to 10 years of their fucking life hitting hoes just to realize that hitting hoes wasn't making them happy. And if I'm gonna be so real, bro, you watching a nigga right now who skipped that timeline, bro. Cause I ain't gonna cap. Like, I could have been a demon. I could have been a demon when it came to the tutors, bro. Now I got a girl. I'm in a very happy, committed relationship. But I promise you, bro, before my ex, I was about to start going crazy. After my ex, I was really about to start going crazy, bro. Like, I ain't like, cause before my ex, right? You feel me? I was I was pretty I was decently evolved in my spiritual journey before meeting my ex. I was leaving my body. I was receiving downloads, all that shit, right? You feel me? I became spiritual before meeting my ex. Now, when I became spiritual, that shit already stopped a lot of plans because before being spiritual, I was hanging out with all the wrong people. I'm smoking and drinking very often. I still smoke, but I barely drink now. You feel me? But I don't smoke nearly as much. I don't smoke in the way I was doing it back then, or as much as I was doing it back then. You feel me? I was doing, nigga. I was. Hey, nigga, don't demonize me, but nigga, I was selling pack a little bit. I was, you know what I'm saying. I was giving out pack a little bit. I ain't gonna cap. I had the HPs and the Ps. I was doing that. I was doing that. Okay, I was doing that. I was really doing that. You feel me? And but as I became spiritual and I was meditating more and stuff like that, I realized that a lot of this shit was stupid. Now, of course, when it came to like the more like making money aspects, I did keep on making my money for a very long period of time because I felt like making money was important. You feel me? But when it came to like hanging with the wrong people, trying to hit the hoes every day, that shit, I was like, this shit's stupid. You feel me? I started trying to hit the hoes every day. I started hanging out with the wrong people. I stopped damaging my fucking body. You feel me? And I just kept on making my money with the P's and the HP's and the QP's and all that. You feel me? I ain't gonna cap. I stopped that shit too, though. You feel me? Definitely stopped that shit. But my whole entire point is the fact that when it came to after my ex, right? Because I was so hurt, I'm like, nigga, women ain't shit. I'm like, well, I think that women ain't. I just thought that a lot of women in my age range around my area are not shit. I didn't think that all women were fucking bad. Like, let's be real. That's fucking stupid to think. But I did think that the local Johns and my age group, I thought that it was all bad. So I was about to start fucking really just smashing hoes out here. You feel me? But I had too much awareness. By that period of time, I've been spiritual for years. I've been meditating for years, and I kind of realized that hitting these hoes, if I did that, that'd be kind of stupid. You feel me? So I didn't do that, and I just locked in and focused on what I really need from a. And I kind of just locked in on myself and focused on also what I really want out of my life and what I really need out of a partner for me to commit to them and stuff like that. You feel me? And once I got all that shit right, I eventually got led to here where now I have a girlfriend and we are very happy. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing like how I was with my ex. You know what I'm saying? We have the same beliefs, same values. We have similar goals and all that shit, bro. It's very lit. And because I meditated, I skipped a whole fucking phase of my life. I skipped the tutor phase where I was gonna be hitting hoes. You feel me? Because I was right on the edge of that shit. Like, I ain't gonna lie, look, I done did some nasty shit. Like, had trains, bro. Like, I done trained females, bro. Well. That was only twice. You feel me? It was two times. You feel me? And the second time, I wasn't even too involved in that shit. You feel me? I wasn't even too involved in that shit. I just got a little bit of. I wasn't. You feel me? I know this is all just grimy nigga shit, bro. I have no idea how the fuck I became this nigga, to be honest, bro. Like, the nigga I was back then was a whole different nigga, you feel me? But that nigga that I was could have lasted for way longer if I didn't meditate and recognize that these desires and that these actions I was committing was actually fucking stupid. You feel me? Like I said, I was right. I was already training females and doing the threesomes and all kinds of shit. You feel me? I was doing all kinds of shit. You feel me? And but I ain't do it often. I was doing my little shit every here and there. You feel me? And then I was like, yo, this shit is not it. These niggas is not it. All this shit is not it. I locked in for a long period of time, for like years. Then she got a girl. I was with her. And because I was with her, when I was with her, I was actually meditating less and less and less and less. Therefore, I couldn't always have the thoughts about why am I still with this person. At some point, I was getting back on my shit. And the more I got back on my shit, the worse we got because I was realizing certain shit that I was doing, which I shouldn't be doing no more, in which it was just conflicting with her and stuff like that and what we had going on. It was just, long story short, bro, just understand that after being with my ex also and getting, because even though I still meditated every day, I wasn't meditating for as long and as much. For example, before my ex, it was like 2 to 3 times a day, 20 minutes minimum. With my ex, it might be like once a day, 10 minutes. You feel me? See what I'm trying to say? Once I started getting back on my shit, I was peeping the thoughts and the emotions and questioning them, and it was changing me, which was changing us, which at some point broke us up. You feel me? It wasn't just me changing. It was just also shit with her and stuff like that too. But just understand the fact that meditation, because I can question my thoughts and my desires, I don't always have to act off them and then live out the timelines that come from those actions. Because some actions that you commit could have the effects of those actions could last for years, bro. You married the wrong person. Now you're in an unhappy marriage for 20 fucking years. You feel me? But I wasn't married for 20 years, obviously, but I'm saying like you picked the wrong person, my nigga. You married the wrong person. Now you're unhappy for 20 fucking years. You feel me? But if you were meditating before getting with that person, you may have already questioned certain shit about the person before marrying them, and now that 20-year marriage never even fucking happened. You feel me? So meditation, dead ass, could speed up your timeline because you actually start to avoid the timelines, which throw you off from your main purpose and your main goals and shit like that. You kind of just avoid the timelines, which take you away from your soul's purpose and what your soul came here to do. You feel me? So yeah, those are 3 lessons I've learned and 3 benefits I've gained from meditating for 5+ years. I'm gonna end this video right here. I love you all. Catch my next video. Peace. The Freak out.